So our reading begins with Belinda in bed. Oh, you should note that many of the illustrations that I used for this screencast are by an illustrator named Aubrey Beardsley. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to test you on Beardsley, but I always think it's good to know an illustrator's name rather than just show their pictures. Anyway, Belinda is asleep and it's going on noon. A sylph named Ariel is whispering to her in her dreams. He tells her that all fairies, including sylphs, were women in life, and that their temperament was the thing that decided what sort of fairy they would turn out to be, each type associated with an element. Salamanders are associated with fire, and were once women who had fiery passions, quick to anger but just as quick to laugh. Nymphs are associated with water, and they were once women who were very laid back and easy to get along with. Think of them as just going with the flow. Sylphs are associated with the air. They were the flirtatious women in life, the coquettes. This is the women that you would always find at a party flirting with all of the guys. And then we have gnomes. They're associated with the earth. They were the prudes in life, the women who judged everyone else and never saw anything good or happy or joyous. So instead of gods in this epic poem, we have fairies, and these fairies are charged with watching over virgins like Belinda. Ariel is worried that something terrible is going to happen to Belinda, but he doesn't know what. The only thing that he knows is that she should beware of man. Of course, when she wakes up, she forgets her dream immediately, so Ariel's warning doesn't do her much good. When Belinda wakes up, she goes immediately to get ready for the day. A toilet here is not like what we'd think of today. It's more of the French toilette or her dressing table. This is where she does her makeup and her hair. Look at this line. Now awful beauty puts on all its arms. What epic convention are we encountering here? Think about how Pope is equating Belinda to a knight getting ready for battle. Her beauty is her armor and her weaponry. I love the juxtaposition of awful with beauty. You might consider awful to mean both terrible and awe-inspiring at the same time. In Canto 2, Belinda boards a barge on the Thames to go to Hampton Court Palace, just outside of London, in order to attend a card party being given by the Queen. Compare her sea voyage, unquote, to those that you'd more typically find in epic poetry, the voyage of the Argos, for instance, or even Beowulf's voyage to Denmark. Once again, here we have a trivial little thing in direct comparison to epic conventions. This line, on her white breast a sparkling cross she wore, which Jews might kiss and infidels adore, is intended to restate just how beautiful Belinda is. Here she wears a cross, a symbol of Christianity, which because it is on her is made so beautiful that even non-believers would worship it. We also learn that here that she wears her hair in two locks, an important detail to remember for later. Pope introduces the character of the Baron, and that's his title, by the way, not his name, who has a crush on Belinda. He builds an altar to the gods and sacrifices his mementos from earlier love affairs. To love, an altar built of 12 vast French romances neatly gilt. In other words, he took 12 books, and the gilt is the gold edges around them. There lay 3 garters, half a pair of gloves, and all the trophies of his former loves. With tender billy dew he lights the pyre. So he builds the altar out of the romance novels, puts some garters, a glove, and other assorted junk on there, and then lights it with the billy dew, which is a love letter. Meanwhile, back at the barge, Ariel decides that it's time to address the other fairies who are surrounding Belinda. He says that he knows something is going to happen, but not what. Whether the nymph shall break Diana's law, which would mean lose her virginity, or some frail china jar receive a flaw. She might just like break a cup or something. Or stain her honor or her brocade. You can see how he's saying it could be something big or it could be something little. He just doesn't know. forget her prayers or miss a masquerade, or lose her heart or necklace at a ball, or whether heaven has doomed that Shock must fall. And remember that Shock is her dog. So Ariel assigns the other fairies to guard various parts of Belinda at the card party. Some are supposed to watch over her earrings, her watch, and her fan. Crispissa is put in charge of Belinda's hair, and no fewer than 50 sylphs are put in charge of her petticoat. That would be her slip, not only because her skirts are so big, but because this is the area that needs most guarding. As long as no one gets under her skirt, she should be okay. So the barge arrives at Hampton Court Palace, where Queen Anne is hosting an afternoon card party. There's a lot of gossiping going on, as you can see in this line. At every word, a reputation dies. So they're just killing each other with their gossip. It sounds like it's pretty malicious. People arrive all afternoon, and around sunset, the card party really begins. And so we have these lines. Meanwhile, declining from noon of day, the sun obliquely shoots his burning ray. The hungry judges soon the sentence sign. The wretches hang, that jurymen may dine. In other words, judges hurry up and sign death warrants so that they can head to the party, giving the impression that their dinner is far more important than the lives of the prisoners that they are condemning. It's just kind of another way for Pope to make fun of the shallowness of the people here. So several lines are taken up with the description of Belinda's game of ombre with the Baron and one other player. Why do you think Pope spends so much time on the details? This is another one of those epic conventions applied to a trivial thing. Which one is it, do you think? I'm not going to give you this one. You need to figure it out. Look at your list. After cards, they have a snack of coffee and berries. Another trivial version of another epic convention here. And this is when the Baron decides to seize his moment. A woman named Clarissa gives him a pair of embroidery scissors, and he goes to cut off one of Belinda's locks. All of the fairies go to save Belinda, but just in that instant, anxious Ariel sought the close recesses of the Virgin's thought. As on the nosegay in her breast reclined, he watched the ideas rising in her mind. Sudden he viewed, in spite of all her art, an earthly lover lurking in her heart. Amazed, confused, he found his power expired, resigned to fate, with a sigh retired. In other words, Ariel sees that Belinda is no longer pure. Even though she is physically still a virgin, Ariel sees lust in her heart. For him, the thought is just as bad as the deed. We really don't know who this earthly lover is, but it really doesn't matter. The damage is done. The fairies can no longer protect her because she's no longer technically a virgin. So the Baron cuts off one of Belinda's locks, and now we are going to spend the rest of the poem dealing with the consequences of his action.